All right, so I've been thinking about something recently that I wanted to share. What if you got reverted to an earlier point in your life? No significant date unless you want it to be, but just a random part of your childhood. So for me, let's say one day when I'm 7 years old or something. And everything that happened on that day back then, it's all the same. So you get transported back to that day and it pans out the exact same way as it did back then. But you retain all knowledge as your current self. So for me, I'm currently 22, so I get transported back to my 7 year old self, but I have the knowledge of my 22-year-old self. Granted, I'm not a fucking, I'm only 22. I've still got a lot of life experience to have and stuff like that, but I know a lot more than I did as my 7 year old self, so it is a significant difference. I talk different. I don't have the energy of a 7 year old. I'm not going to be going around as a 7 year old like, oh, let's go play on the pop. No, I'm inside 22, but I'm seven. So I remember what I ate for dinner yesterday as a 22-year-old. I remember all world events leading up to 2022, which is just the date, that we go back. Um, I know exactly what happens to my friends at school in the future, and if I'm still friends with them, and if any of them do certain things, stuff like that. Now, people are going to notice a difference because all of a sudden, you're not playing around, pissing around like a little 7 year old. You're going to be talking differently. Again, I don't have a large vocabulary or anything like that, but more than I do when I was seven, that's for sure. So people are going to notice that. People are going to notice a difference in the way I act and the way I speak and stuff like that. But the reason I think this will be a cool concept is because you could go through life again a second time. Think about like Elden Ring. I'm sure most of us have played Elden Ring. You go through Elden Ring, right? At the beginning, you're like a little bitch. You're getting whooped by everything. By the end, you've got all this really cool armor. You've got a really cool weapon. You're overpowered. You're like level 150. You beat the final boss or whatever, do all the extra stuff, and then you go into New Game Plus. So you start at the beginning of the game again, but you retain all of your armor, all your weapons, all your levels, all your strength. You're going through it again. You're meeting people for the first time, going through the story again for the first time, but really, is it the first time? No, it's not. They think it is, but it's not. And you're running through everything. You're fucking, wiping out all the enemies and everything like that because you've retained all your stuff. It will kind of be like that. You're going back to this early date, but actually you're 22 on the inside, in my case at least. So you're going through life with just a different outlook on life. Now I think this would be cool because personally back then I didn't really appreciate life. I was a kid. I don't think many of us did, right? For example, primary school. I really liked primary school looking back on it. I didn't at the time. I fucking hated it because it's primary school. I didn't like school. It was the place I had to go. I was forced to go. I had to do homework. I'd rather just be at home playing games. So I didn't like school. Now, as soon as I got to secondary school and then college as well, I was instantly grateful for primary school. I wish I could have gone back at that point. So it's like those moments where it's like growing up, you wish you could appreciate them in the time, because you don't know at the time that you're living through a good period of your life, right? So it's stuff like that. You could be more grateful for the things you're going through. You could really appreciate the times that, I'm playing Mario Kart with my friends at school that I don't know anymore. I could really, just appreciate those times. And just, go through life with a different outlook, a different view on life. Not only that though, but, you could change certain things around. You could do things differently, and that's what I would do personally, because in secondary school, college, I was very shy. I was very nervous to make certain decisions and very worried to do certain things. Now that I've finished school, I realize actually, even if I was embarrassing or cringy at school, no one fucking remembers that. No one remembers that. I don't even remember that. It's really not that important. You either enjoy school or you hate it, right? There's no in between. You've got to go. You might as well enjoy it. And, there's no point being nervous or worried or anything like that because, it really does not matter in the grand scheme of things. So I would enjoy those years a bit more. Uh, Now, here's the thing. You could also use your future knowledge to predict certain events, right? Like, I know the World Cup winners, for example. I know who wins in the World Cup, how they win, stuff like that. I could bet on those events. Well, technically, I couldn't because I'm young. so I couldn't actually bet on them. But I could find a way. Yeah, I could get my dad to. I could convince my dad to put a bet on or something, and then we win a lot of money because I already know what's going to happen. So that'd be pretty cool as well. And I just, and here's the thing, not everybody had a good childhood. Some people are probably watching this like, fuck no, I do not want to go back to when I was a kid because, I maybe didn't have the best upbringing. Maybe someone in my household was abusive and, they wouldn't want to relive those memories. And at the end of the day, if you did get transported back, while you do retain all knowledge, at the end of the day, you are still a 7-year-old physically. So it's not like you can just go back and fucking, there's nothing you can do like that because at the end of the day, you're still 7. You could probably alter events somehow by doing certain things. There's definitely ways you could do that, and you could utilize your knowledge of just how things work to alter things. But yeah, there's none of that like sort of, physical, you can't really overcome things physically, really. If you got bullied in secondary school or college or something like that, you could sort of, okay, you know what, I'm 7 now, I've got years of training. I mean, it probably won't be wise to start going to the gym as a 7-year-old or anything, but you could get into, boxing and stuff early on. And, when you get to that point in your life where you got bullied, you can fucking whoop them all, you can do things like that, which I think would be pretty cool. And again, like I said, it would just be like a second view on life. It would just be like like you've lived it once as you're growing up, and that's that. Now you can relive it and you can appreciate things where you didn't appreciate them before. You can be grateful where you weren't grateful before. You can change things you would have preferred to change, and you can just sort of have like a redo on life where because in the moment you might not always make you can look back on it like, okay, I would have definitely rather have done have done this thing differently. And even though I don't think anyone should do that in their life and look back and say, you know what, I would have done this, because at the end of the day, whatever you did in your life leading up to it, all those things led up to where you are right now, But it would be cool to see how things would pan out differently if you altered certain things. And it would just be cool to not replace, your current life, but just have like an alternate view on it. And, you might be wondering, well, how is this possible? Well, it's not possible. What I'm saying is, like, imagine if, like, they created some sort of technology that just altered your brain. It just fucking sent you back. And you kind of could have multiple sort of, living it multiple times. Or I don't know what I'm talking about at this point. I'm mumbling. And, yeah, but what do you think about that concept, getting transported back? Would that be a cool thing? I just think it'd be pretty cool to, sort of go back to those days and just appreciate them a bit more. But not only that, though, it would be cool to start things that I got into earlier. I would sort of, all my interests that I have right now in life, all, passions or whatever I have, I would technically have them a lot earlier. Some of them I only discovered over the past few years. So technically I would be going back, and I'd be, I don't know, living through certain passions and times where those hobbies and things were bigger, and more people were into them and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know, maybe you're a fan of a fucking old band or something, and maybe they're not active anymore, but back then they were, but you weren't into them back then because you were a kid. So you know what I mean? Like, you can sort of, as they're releasing new music, you can listen to it as it's coming out, and I don't know. These are just very small things, but let me know down below what you think. And yeah, so yeah.